Welcome, sir.
Bert, thank you. Bert, thank you very much. Well, this is the day everybody's been waiting for, right? And what a beautiful Marion, Ohio day. It is just absolutely fantastic. As Bert said, Fran and I first came here in 1982. I was running for Congress, the old 7th Congressional District, and we first saw the Harding home, really fell in love with it. And we visited many, many times in the 8 years after that I was a congressman, and throughout the years we've brought different kids and now different grandkids here. But it truly is a special place. It's not, of course, just the home, but the Harding tomb as well. And as a congressman, I did what congressmen do, right, Bob? You try to bring home a little money, and so we had a little money that went into the restoration of the tomb. So this has been really, I think, what we've all have been waiting for. I just want to thank everyone who's been a part of this, the Harding family who is here. I know you all have been waiting for this day, and this is a very exciting day for you. Exciting day for the Marion community. One of the first things that Fran and I noticed in 1982 is how the Marion community really embraced Warren G. Harding and embraced this home and embraced this very, very significant and great historic site. Shout out also, as Bert did, to Sherry Hall and her team who've really stayed with this and have seen some real changes over the years. Fran and I were here about a year ago. We wanted to celebrate the 1920 campaign. We thought even during the pandemic we still should try to celebrate it, and we did. We got a peek into this building behind us and saw some of the things, but it was still, some of the construction was still going on. You know, one of the things that Fran and I just walked in, one of the things that strikes us is the color portraits by Marion native Danny Day. You know, when we study history or we see pictures of Warren G. Harding or the First Lady, it's always in black and white. That's what we think about it. And of course, the world was in color in 1920, just like it is today, but we don't think of it that way. And so see what the artist has done to bring really life, I think, and warmth to both the First Lady and to the President, I think is really, really spectacular. And one of the kind of great things as soon as you walk in. You know, I've always been fascinated by the 1920 campaign. I'm fascinated by a lot of campaigns, but the 1920 presidential campaign, yeah, I've been in a few myself. But the 1920 campaign, it's just always fascinated me, and I think it should anyone from Ohio. Two Ohioans, one from Marion, one from Dayton, both in the newspaper business, one United States Senator, one governor, running against each other. And so the spotlight of the nation, obviously, and the spotlight of the world was right here. It takes on, I think, for me, a different meaning today than it did 18 months ago. Because we've been through 18 months of a pandemic. It's still here. We're done with it, but it's certainly not done with us. And you think of the 1920 campaign, where they had just gone through the end of World War, what we now know as World War I. For them, it was the war. The war was over, thank heavens. The pandemic was behind them, but they'd gone through, and you know, a tremendous number of people who had died. It had to impact, you know, virtually every community. And you wonder, you know, how people felt. The two political giants of the era were gone, really off the stage. Theodore Roosevelt had died at a relatively, when we think back on now, a relatively young age in 1919. And the president, Woodrow Wilson, was still president, but he was not in good physical shape at all. People really did not see him. His dream of this world organization that usually the candidate who wins is the more optimistic. And I think that, from what we know about what I've read about Warren G. Harding, I think people must have sensed that optimism, that feeling that we're moving on. There is a future. These bad things are now behind us, and we can move on and move forward with our great country. I have a picture that I keep in my office that fascinates me, and had it actually blown up and got it from the archives in Dayton. But the campaign, of course, was not only about the two presidential candidates, but there's also two vice presidential candidates. And if you look at those four individuals, three of them would ultimately become president of the United States. Of course, we think immediately, if we're in Marion, we think of the tragedy of Warren G. Harding's death, Calvin Coolidge, who's vice president, then, of course, becoming president. But sometimes we forget about the loser. We always forget about the loser. But the loser in that campaign, James Cox, the newspaper publisher, editor of the Dayton paper, and ultimately the founder of the whole Cox enterprise, we forget about his running mate. But the picture that I have is a picture of candidate Cox, home, latter part of the campaign, walking down the main street in Dayton, Ohio, with his vice presidential candidate, Franklin Roosevelt. And the picture is, to me, of great interest because almost exactly a year from the date that picture was taken, and it's a picture that shows Roosevelt, of course, towering over Cox, walking down the street. And 1 year later, almost to the day, Roosevelt, of course, comes down with polio and never walks again. So a really fascinating campaign, As I said, campaigns are about the future. And this campaign was about the future, and we saw what the people of the country decided by a pretty big margin, and that was that they trusted Warren G. Harding. My friend Bob Taft, I know, is going to actually talk and do an appraisal of Warren G. Harding. So as president, I will not do that. But one of the kind of great ironies of history, I think, is there's been a little book in the series about the presidents written about Warren G. Harding, but a number of books written. But a book that sort of restores, I think, his reputation, or certainly takes a different view, was a book written by a guy by the name of John Dean. And if you remember, of Watergate fame. So there's a little irony to that as well. But it's a book I want to read. I've not read it. I've actually read some of the book reviews. But it really takes a very, very positive view of President Harding and the things that he did, the things that he stood for during the time that he was president. So I'm going to leave that to my friend Bob Taft. That's his job. But I just want to say, this is an exciting day. Fran and I have waited for this day. I know the Harding family. I know the Marion community and everyone who's worked so hard on this. So to all of you who have done this, and the History Connection taking the real lead in this and doing a great job. But the home itself, again, is really part of this community, just as Warren G. Harding is part of this community, part of the Marion community, and will always be a part of the Marion community. Thank you very much.